And thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time. And whether you get to join us on Fridays at 10 a.m. Central Time on Webcast One Live Studio, Webcast One Live Studio. One is spelled out like the number, Webcast One Live, webcastonelive.com. I guess I was telling you studio. Webcastonelive.com. Then you can join us. You can watch, you can view, you can listen. And you can even call in if you want on Fridays, 515-244-0077, 515-244-0077. And then if you are the ones who get to hear it at noon on Sundays, thanks for listening in. Noon on 99.3 FM, KTIA, the Truth Network. So we're pleased and honored to participate with both of those enterprises. As you're hearing this, it's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. To every dad out there, happy Father's Day. I have to say this. On Mother's Day, people say we usually praise the moms and beat up the dads. That's somewhat true, but we also always bring in abortion on Mother's Day anymore because so many women are hurting from their abortions. And, of course, you know we tell you on this show, certainly it's a travesty that faces our nation, but there's always forgiveness available. Always forgiveness available when you ask for it, and there's a freedom that comes with that forgiveness. Not the condemnation of the world. It's Corinthians that talks about a worldly sorrow brings condemnation, but honest repentance will bring freedom. And so I have to bring that in for the men too. I didn't know I was going to do this, but here I go. If you're a dad out there, if you're a man out there, how do you know if you're not a dad? Dr. Carlson tells a great story. I had the privilege of being with him just a week ago. And he tells a great story of how someone, as soon as you start rising in the fame category or notoriety, someone's going to try and hit you up with something. And someone said he was the father of a child and they needed a blood sample. He knew better. He said, he responded and said, I've had relations with only my wife. There is no threat here. How many of you can say the same? I don't point fingers. I am not calling out. This is no judgment. I am just saying, for all the men out there, raise your sons in a way that when someone asks, they can say without a doubt, there is no threat. I am clean. And to every man out there, I ask you this. We talk to the women about it on Mother's Day, but about to the men. How do you know that you don't have a child that never got to take its first breath? Unless you have held up God's plan as well. The only way to be sure is to be certain and to live as God has instructed us to live. And other than that, men, I'm going to call you out and ask you to step up. Our nation is reeling. We're going to be talking about the national security issues that we're facing, the threats of Islam in this country. We're seeing it now with terrorist attacks happening more regularly here on American soil. And it's not a gun control issue. It's not. We'll talk about that. We have Kelly Cook, the national director, coming on from Act for America. And in studio, our own Iowa expert, Dr. Stephen Kirby, who is also the local liaison, director, leader for Act for America, along with 3 books that he has written as well, an expert that he has become on Islam. We'll be talking about that. But men, I'm going to ask you to step up. Your wives need you. Your daughters need you. Your sons need you. Your family needs you. The world may tell you that your role is not important and that we're all equal. And while we all deserve equal opportunity, we all know that that is just not absolutely true. We all have distinct roles. God created us male and female to delight in those roles. And we ask you, men, to step up, stand up, protect your families. Oh, my goodness. We even have to protect them now in the restroom. It's so pathetic. Joining me online is Karen Campbell. Karen is from Cerro Gordo County, and they are one of the 99 counties participating in the Bible Reading Marathon. We talked about this a week or so ago with Bill Federer. The governor has signed a proclamation in April encouraging all of our counties to read the Bible through before July 4th. You'll end about 4 p.m. July 3rd because, as our founders knew, our independence as a nation that we'll celebrate on the 4th, our independence as a nation is a direct result of our dependence on God's salvation. It absolutely falls in line. They knew that. They honored him, so many of them, in their writings. And so by reading this word in Isaiah 55, 11, it says, "So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." Karen Campbell's one of those counties. Karen, you have things pretty well organized in Cerro Gordo. Karen? Is she on line? Which one? Do I need to hit that?
Hello?
Hey, Karen.
Hey, Tamara.
No, I gotcha. Thank you very much. Tamara's running the controls. That's a scary idea. So tell us a little bit. The 99 County Reading Bible Marathon, the ACLU, the separation of church and religion have all come after their governor, and he's standing right with our founding fathers, right in line with precedent. But you have things very well organized in Cerro Gordo County. So who's going to start off your Bible reading marathon?
Actually, what we have decided, my pastor and I from Praise Community are the ones heading this up in our county, and we have decided to start with our county and city officials. So our state or our city representative, let's see, our city...
Your city council members?
Yes, we'll be starting it, and then we're going to have the sheriff, Kevin Powell, reading. And we're going to have a couple of people from the sheriff's office and a couple of police officers. We're going to have the man that oversees the supervisors reading. Our state auditor will be reading. And it's actually our city administrator that will be starting it. So, yes, we decided to start with city officials, that's where it should begin, and we've had an overwhelming response. So
excellent. I am so pleased, and I'm not surprised a bit that your county is leading the way. Your prayer group up there is a CWA prayer group that meets every day at the church there at noon. And so thank you for leading the way. Thank you for talking to our listeners about it. Folks, if you don't know anything about this, you can go to the Facebook page, Iowa Bible Reading Marathon, Iowa Bible Marathon, or Iowa Bible Reading Marathon. Also, Kingdom Builder Enterprises, and I'm not sure if it's .com or .org, but Kingdom Builder Enterprises has a live link where you can see what county, who's the chair, who needs help. We have several counties where we need somebody to step up. So you don't have to be an expert. Please don't think it's too huge for you to handle. Try it. Just step forward. Make that phone call to Jenny Caligieri or email her and let her know that you're interested. If you want more information on that, you can email or Facebook us, private message us at Truth for Our Time on Facebook, and we'll help you make those connections. But let's not let this go undone. Let's support our governor who signed this proclamation and the call that Jenny Caligieri, who's the state director for the Iowa Prayer Caucus, the Governor's Prayer Caucus, and the Congressional Prayer Caucus. Let's stand with her, because that word will not return void. And if you call yourself a Christian, you are being called. There's no doubt about it. Let's get out and go and do this when we have an opportunity. Thank you, Karen.
yes, thank you. God bless.
Bye-bye. All right. In studio, Dr. Stephen Kirby.
Hi, Tamara. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining me again.
It's my pleasure always.
You were first with me in a radio broadcast on another studio years ago.
Yep.
And out of that, it's green. So
I know.
It's not going to go with our green screen. Islam and Barack Hussein Obama, a handbook on Islam. The other one, getting more beautiful each time, Islam, according to Muhammad, not your neighbor. I love that. And Letting Islam Be Islam, your third book. You can just see they're absolutely gorgeous for those of you who are watching at our 10 o'clock show. Dr. Kirby, thank you for joining us. And also on the phone line is Dr. Kelly Cook. Or not, I don't know, Dr. Kelly Cook. Are you a doctor?
Particular preface, but no, I'm just a regular Kelly Cook.
Regular Kelly Cook. Well, here's the good news for you. According to the left, if you identify as a doctor, you can be a doctor. Right? That's the new thing.
Oh, yeah. If I'm feeling it, there we go.
There you go. So today you can be a doctor. I myself, I think I'll be an NBA player and force them to let me on their team so that those who want to fuss about the bathrooms in North Carolina can have to fuss with me on their bench. Wouldn't that just be fair?
Yeah, no trophies. We all feel good.
Yeah.
You got it. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you both for joining me today. Obviously, we're reeling from the Sunday event. Here as folks are going to be listening to this Sunday, Father's Day, 1 week previous to that horrific attack on American soil, a nightclub. And let's be fair, there are those who are trying to give this great publicity for shelter for a various group of people who have a certain lifestyle. But that's not what this is even about. Although that will be an issue with Islam, Islam just destroys anyone who doesn't fall within their parameters.
Well, that's what Islamic doctrine teaches, and that's why I always differentiate between Islam and Muslims, because Islamic doctrine was fixed, and it's been fixed since the 7th century. Muslims, as individuals, can decide, do I want to adhere to this doctrine, or how much of it do I want to adhere to? And so when somebody says, well, I know a nice Muslim neighbor, and he wouldn't do something like that, they're absolutely right. But that doesn't mean that negates or invalidates those doctrines of Islam that have been around since the 7th century. And that's an important distinction to make if we want to start understanding why this stuff is happening.
And we were going to play a video, and oddly enough, it was no longer available when we were trying to get it up. But the president is saying that Islam has now been, ISIS has been, at first I think he said contained, and he continues to say that their finances are dwindling and that we're getting a handle on them. But the CIA director came out shortly and said, not true. No, we aren't. And I want to call you Dr. Cook now. Kelly, Islam contained? Finances dwindling?
They've come a long way since their JV days. But, it's just amazing to see the consternation on our current occupant of the White House's face when he is forced to admit it's not working. And it's so sad. And it makes one wonder, what his true motivations are, but whether he's just sloppy, inept, or if he's the greatest con man who ever lived, it really doesn't matter. Our enemies are avowed. They want to kill us, and we have to treat them seriously.
It is unfortunate that this president seems more concerned about protecting the reputation of our attackers than the rights, the Second Amendment rights of Americans.
Absolutely. And I just got to say, too, that Dr. Steve, it's great to be on the show with you. Steve and I have worked together for years under the umbrella of Act for America, and he does a great job of representing us out there in Des Moines.
Thanks, Kelly. It's great to be with you.
Your meetings are on Tuesdays. You just had one this past Tuesday. I so wanted to come.
Right.
Are they the second Tuesday of the month?
Well, in general, the second Tuesday of the month. We've had to change them around just a touch. But if anybody's interested, I'll put in a plug for Act for America. They can go to the Act for America website. It's Act for America, ACTFORAMERICA.org. And in the upper right-hand corner, you can click on a link that says Chapters. And then it'll take you to a site that says Find a Chapter, and you get a nice map of the United States and a place to put your zip code. And just put your zip code in, and it'll bring up a contact link for the closest chapter to you. So for the folks in the Des Moines area that are listening, go to Act for America, find a chapter, and contact me through the Act for America website.
Do we have other chapters besides the Des Moines chapter in Iowa?
In Iowa, there's some people who are trying to get some chapters going, but we're the active chapter in Iowa.
Very good. All right.
It's so interesting to see this network that we've been able to develop over the last 8 years, Tamara. As a national field director for Act for America, I oversee close to 1,100 chapters, most of which are in the U.S., but it also transcends international borders to literally around the globe. About 10% of our chapters are international. And it's amazing to see what happens when hundreds of thousands of people all move in the same direction. Whatever we're working on, it takes you from being just that lone person out there crying in the wilderness to being a part of a team that actually gets things done when we all work together and each of us do just a little bit. It really adds up.
Very good. And we've got to go to a break right now. We'll be right back with Kelly Cook, National Field Director from Act for America, and Dr. Stephen Kirby. Stay tuned.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time on 99.3 FM or Webcast One Live Studio, Fridays at 10. I am in studio with Dr. Stephen Kirby. He is the local leader for the Act for America group. And online is Kelly Cook, the national director who oversees about 1,100 chapters of Act for America. And I would assume those are growing as activities like Sunday continue to happen. And unfortunately, not surprise too many of us anymore. When was the last attack, gentlemen? Was it just March? When was that in San Bernardino?
Yeah, well, San Bernardino was the latest one, and the problem, but prior to Orlando, the problem is, and we're going to be launching a nationwide petition on Monday to this effect, but we are sadly finding out that the FBI is not being allowed to do their job. They're being handcuffed with political correctness, and this clown in Orlando that shot up the place down there, he was under surveillance numerous times and questioning, and he was every time he had to be released because of the administration's rules to the FBI, the rules of engagement that literally handcuff them and won't let them do their job. And we've got to allow our law enforcement professionals to be able to use every tool, have every tool at their disposal, not just the ones that the PC crowd lets go through.
Goose, we have a Goose is my producer who's stepping in today and helping us out. We have a 2-minute video, audio, is what you'll hear for the listeners, and we can stop it during out. You can hit pause so we can discuss some of the points. Would that be okay? Let's go ahead and start this. It's our president talking about how we have ISIS under control.
Enough talking about being tough on terrorism. Actually be tough on terrorism and stop making it easy as possible for terrorists to buy assault weapons. For a while now, the main contribution of some of my friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize this administration and me for not using the phrase radical Islam. They know who the nature of the enemy is.
Let's hold it right there. Gentlemen, he doesn't use the term radical Islam. And I'm wondering, is it because he knows it's really not the radical Islamists, it's the adherent, devout Muslims?
Well, I'll jump in. I think that's the crux of the matter. I don't use the term radical Islam either. I just say Islam. And I ask people, I say, if the actions of a Muslim are supported by Islamic doctrine, as found in the commands of Allah in the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad, if those actions are supported by Islamic doctrine, that Muslim is devout. He's not radical. And when you look at the actions of ISIS, the incident in Orlando, even the incident in San Bernardino, which I checked, and that was December 2nd of 2015.
December, okay.
These are supported by Islamic doctrine. These are Muslims who have decided they want to return to their faith and actually become devout Muslims. So President Obama, I think, is taking it from a different standpoint. He doesn't want to mention Islam at all. So I think he might feel like if he starts caving and allowing radical Islam, then the next step is people are going to be focusing on Islam.
But he'd like to make it about gun control.
Exactly.
Either of you? Gun control the issue?
Well, it really isn't. You know, look at the Boston situation. They didn't bring out a gun. They used a pressure cooker. They're creative. They use box cutters. They use airplanes. They'll use any tool available to them to kill people. They're very creative. Guns are just one way. And fortunately, the U.S. has this little thing, big thing, called the Second Amendment, which we can protect ourselves, and more importantly, we can protect our families. So it's not the issue. And the president doesn't get this because I read an excellent piece this morning comparing his thinking to that of the ancient Chinese war general Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu said, "You've got to understand who your enemy is. That's the first step of winning any war." And I think Obama does understand. He just doesn't want it to get out.
I don't think we have clarity on who the enemy is to him.
Yeah, he just, well, for one thing, he was several formative years in his young childhood.
Right.
He actually attended a madrasa.
Right.
So he is inclined to either be a Muslim or to think like one.
By his actions, we, the Americans, are his enemies. Our freedoms, our liberties, the Second Amendment, free enterprise. By his actions, we would be his enemies more than those who are attacking us.
Well, he has more intense feelings about people who happen to carry a gun to protect their family than the guy who shot up the nightclub. It's just unbelievable to watch the expressions on his face when he's giving these admonitions to all of us who should be sitting, at his knee, absorbing all his wisdom. It's just incredible, the audacity of this man.
Let's go on, Goose. Let's hit the play button again.
So there's no magic to the phrase radical Islam. It's a political talking point. It's not a strategy. And if we fall into the trap of painting all Muslims with a broad brush and imply that we are at war with an entire religion, then we are doing the terrorist work for them. But we are now seeing how dangerous this kind of mindset and this kind of thinking can be. We're starting to see where this kind of rhetoric and loose talk and sloppiness about who exactly we're fighting, where this can lead us. We now have proposals from the presumptive Republican nominee for President of the United States to bar all Muslims from emigrating to America. We hear language that singles out immigrants and suggests entire religious communities are complicit in violence.
Let's pause it there. Kelly Cook?
He's obviously appealing to the average American's very warm feelings towards freedom of religion, as found in the First Amendment, and he's deluding himself. It is just unbelievable that he cannot see this. But Dr. Steve's right. The Quran, the original works of Islam, are very, very clear And any Muslim, and there are a few out there that believe that Islam has been misinterpreted, but they are in no way in a position to sway the vast majority of Muslims around the world. Now, does this mean every Muslim is ready to pick up a gun and shoot us? No. But it does mean that many, many of them are very willing to give material support, aid, and comfort for those who do. And it is a real existential threat to the entirety of Western civilization.
Okay, should we go on, or Steve?
No,
okay.
I agree with that. And what's interesting, President Obama said, it makes it look like we're at war with an entire religion. Actually, that entire religion, Islam, has been at war with the non-Muslim world since the 7th century. Right. Islamic doctrine divides the world into the House of Islam, Dar al-Islam, and the House of War, Dar al-Harb.
Yep.
Now, you talk about being at war. Islam has divided the world into the House of Islam and the House of War. Islam has been at war with us since the 7th century. So President Obama is turning this issue around completely. He needs to recognize the doctrines of Islam, and that's why I say, don't paint Muslims with a broad brush. Muslims are individuals, just like individual Jews and Christians. A lot of them don't even know their own religion.
Right.
But Islam is what it has been since the 7th century. And that's what we need to keep the focus on. And President Obama talked about Muslim immigration. When Donald Trump mentioned that some weeks back, what he should have said, he should have added in the fact that back, I think, in 79,
Carter.
Yeah, President Carter actually applied a law, and I can't remember what the federal law is, but it focused on Iranians because of the Iranian hostage crisis. And the federal government actually required Iranians to come in, bring their visas in. It prohibited any further immigration of Iranians into the United States. So this is something that has been done before. But unfortunately, the liberals would prefer that we don't remember it. But the bottom line is it's perfectly legal. The law allows a president to exclude a certain category of people if he thinks they're going to be a danger to American society.
As his first thing he does in office, the oath. The oath of office is to protect American citizens and the Constitution.
Right.
By not doing that, he's failing the first oath he took in office.
Yeah, let's just address the elephant in the room here. I mean, Obama is doing this. The left is doing this as a cheap ploy for new voters. There's no doubt about it. They are begging people to flood our borders for the next 7 months, to be able to increase the chances of their electoral victories. That's all this is. And we have to call it for that. And the problem is they are willing to put the entire nation at physical risk
for a few more votes.
For their political advantage. Mm-hmm. That's treason.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And we had a resolution at the RNC to impeach this president. I brought it to the floor in the committee, but I could not support it just because of the time. I felt it would distract from this race. It would cause us possibly to lose the presidential race when we have a good chance of winning. And I didn't see a Congress who had given him all but a gift-wrapped omnibus bill at Christmas time coming out and now impeaching him. So I did vote against that as far as or I don't even think it moved forward. No one else brought it a second. But you are absolutely right. We have treasonous activity here, and Americans need to be aware of it. Kids aren't hearing it anymore in the classroom. They don't know their constitutions. They don't know enough to hold the press accountable. When we hear news anchors talking about machine guns, there were not machine guns there. They know so little about what they speak, and we've not trained our kids. Again, I come back to you fathers and you dads. Raise up your kids to research, to know the truth, and to stand when they see it. I want to come back. We'll go ahead and see. We've got 2 minutes left. Do we have time to play the rest of that clip? Let's go. I guess we just have a minute and a half. Let's try it.
Where does this stop? Because that's not the America we want. It doesn't reflect our democratic ideals. It won't make us more safe, it will make us less safe, fueling ISIL's notion that the West hates Muslims. We've gone through moments in our history before when we acted out of fear, and we came to regret it. This is a country founded on basic freedoms, including freedom of religion. And if we ever abandon those values, we would not only make it a lot easier to radicalize people here and around the world, but we would have betrayed the very things we are trying to protect. And then the terrorists would have won. And we cannot let that happen.
Okay, I'm going to
will
stop
not let
it
that
there.
happen.
I thought he was going to go in and talk about the fact that we were diminishing ICE, that their numbers had been reduced to the lowest levels, and that the CIA director, John Brennan, was going to come on and talk about the cadre of potential fighters for the West entering the U.S. We are not in a safer place. We at one point, the Iran sanctions were working, but this president just undid those months ago, a year ago now. We've got a break. We'll be right back here with Kelly Cook and Dr. Stephen Kirby. Stay tuned.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time, where we help you when the headlines hit home. If God expects you to live through it, He has directed you how to do it somewhere in His Word. Unlike Islam, and we give somebody the gospel, if they choose not to participate, we shake the dust off our sandals and walk away. We don't toss people off buildings. We don't cut their heads off, and we just... that's how we peaceably exist. You can't peaceably exist with those whose work is to destroy you, the infidel being anyone who doesn't believe as they do. And Dr. Kirby, I think from some of the things that I've learned, it's not just as they don't think as they do as far as Islam, but if they don't adhere to the same high principles of Islam, if they would allow LGBTQ, at some point, wouldn't the Islamic devout Muslims turn against those who would be okay with LGBTQ lifestyles?
Oh, sure. The devout Muslim would have to. In fact, I looked into that, and homosexuality is condemned in the Quran. It's chapter 7, verses 80 through 84. Now, what's interesting, Muhammad himself said to kill the homosexuals. Here's what he said. Ibn Abbas reported that the Messenger of Allah said, "Whoever you catch committing the act of the people of Lut, which is homosexuality, then kill both parties to the act." And that was Muhammad, the guy who spoke for Allah. But he not only said kill him, he said homosexuals should be stoned to death. It was narrated from Abu Huraira that the Prophet said concerning those who do the action of the people of Lut. Here's what Muhammad said. Stone the upper and the lower. Stone them both. And that's from one of the authoritative collections of the teachings and examples of Muhammad. So for a devout Muslim to embrace the LGBT community is going against the teachings and commands of his prophet Muhammad, who spoke for Allah.
Of course, we in the Christian beliefs who follow the Bible, God has condemned homosexuality, but we can't condone what he's condemned as well. But we don't go out with that attitude. And we believe we all live under the grace of Jesus Christ coming back and asking our forgiveness of sins. And so through that grace, we no longer just live under the law, and we don't stone anymore. So it's a difference between those two religions. I had a man in the airport Sunday, which was interesting, flying, by the way, on Sunday, with all these terrorists clenching the whole watch, the TSA and everything clamping down, that, tried to say that we all worship the same God. Of course, I couldn't let that go. My God is loving and slow to anger, so I couldn't let that go. But coming back to this LGBTQ, we hear, and it's getting out more and more, the Thursday night activities of Muslim men defiling, molesting young Muslim boys. So where's the correlation there?
Well, I think the significant difference there is that what they're doing is molesting prepubescent boys. And you look at in Afghanistan, from what I've heard, Saudi Arabia, the a male Muslim having sexual relations with a prepubescent boy is not considered homosexuality. If the male Muslim has sexual relations with another male Muslim, that's homosexuality. And you can look at the Quran. The Quran talks about paradise, and it's really a guy's location. You're not only going to have all these wives, but you're going to be served by eternally young boys who will be there to accommodate all of your pleasures. This is right in the Quran. In fact, in my book, Letting Islam Be Islam, I have a chapter devoted to the Islamic paradise, what happens when you get up to paradise. And it's amazing, the verses in the Quran that talk about these young, eternally young boys who will be there to serve you, provide service for you up in paradise. So it's prepubescent boys that it's okay to have the relations
Even
with.
more frightening. Absolutely, even more for not to consenting adults.
The origins of this religion literally define the term demonic.
Your leader, Brigitte Gabriel, is the one who said, the more I read my Bible, the better person I become. The more I read the Quran, the more hateful and violent people become.
Yeah, it's very true. The more devout an adherent to Islam becomes, the greater the chance that they're going to perpetuate the bloody borders started by Muhammad himself. The Saudis, for the most part, that took down the towers on 9/11, they did it just the way Muhammad would have done it.
Okay. Kelly, you had mentioned during the break Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. Obama's appeasement strategy of somehow, if we're just nice enough to these people, they'll leave us alone. It flies in the face of reality, and it underscores the same strategy that he used with Gitmo, with Guantanamo Bay, and his release of these cold-blooded killers that have actually gone back to the battlefield and killed Americans again. He somehow thinks that if we're just nice enough, that they'll go away. Well, The Muslim Brotherhood was founded in 1928, long before Israel, long before anybody was over in the Middle East pushing them around. Now, admittedly, it was a response to the redrawing of the lines in World War I. But my goodness, the only thing the Middle Eastern mindset respects is a show of strength,
right?
Not a show of appeasement. You know what Winston Churchill called an appeaser? He said, it's somebody who feeds the alligator hoping that he'll eat him last.
And you bring up Winston Churchill, and here we are in an election season here in America, and we have one who is talking very boldly, calling Islam what it is, saying he'll take protections for America, and we have others, Hillary Clinton and that whole administration, who continually deny it. And when you mention Winston Churchill, I laugh because people are not sure that they can vote for one, Donald Trump, because he's an uncertain. Well, you certainly have very definite certainties with Hillary Clinton. We've seen them. But when you come back to Winston Churchill, he was not necessarily well-liked. He was bold, sometimes ill-behaved, but the war ended a lot differently and a lot better because he was the leader.
Winston Churchill was the kind of guy that would tell, one of the female members of the parliament told him one day, Mr. Churchill, if I were married to you, I'd serve you poison. And he came back immediately and said, Madame, if I were married to you, I'd drink it.
Uh-huh.
He could run over people rhetorically in a heartbeat. And it's funny you mention this because the more I look at Mr. Trump, the more I see direct correlations with Mr. Churchill.
We're not saying he's a saint.
No.
We're not saying he's perfect. But when you're fighting an enemy who's ready to decapitate, throw people off buildings, burn you alive, you want somebody who's not necessarily the nice guy, but the one who's bold enough to stand up.
Right. The problem with the conservative movement over the last 80 years is we've been too nice.
Yeah.
And finally, someone is ushered in that has enough of a mean streak to actually take on liberalism, and we're not embracing him.
Go ahead.
Don't take this as an endorsement of Mr. Trump from our organization because we're a nonprofit. I'm speaking with my personal hat I'm wearing at this point.
Yeah, no, I get it. And to the point where people, we need somebody who can bring us together. We're such a divided nation. Well, who would have ever thought that one candidate would have the LGBTQ and the evangelicals understanding and seeing the protections he could bring this country? We have a lot of things to fix in this country. We have blood on our own hands with abortion and with some of the other issues, the transgender bathrooms and the education and blah, blah, blah. But before we can fix any of that, we have to secure our borders and protect ourselves from those who are waiting to destroy us and annihilate us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing how wide open our southern border is. And, of course, the Canadian border with Canada is even wider open. But right now, that's not a problem. But under Trudeau's government, they're bringing in a lot of Muslim, quote-unquote, refugees. So it could start to be a problem. But we lived in Southern California for, 40-some years. And we got down to the border with Mexico a number of times. And I was shocked at how wide open that border is. It was like a two-tiered little fence you might see on a farm, stretching for miles along the border. I mean, a 3-year-old kid could walk through that fence
Absolutely.
And come into the United States.
And we're now hearing that folks have been caught on the border with plans for the pipeline.
Yep, Muslim lady got caught.
We've got to come to break right now. When we come back, we'll have more with Kelly Cook from Act for America and Dr. Stephen Kirby. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Listening to Truth for Our Time as we help you live God's Word in today's world. When the headlines hit home, I'm talking with Dr. Stephen Kirby right here in Iowa, Act for America, as well as the National Director. Very honored to have Kelly Cook joining us for this hour. And Kelly, you know, I read the article where the Cleveland Cavalier player does not stand for the anthem. Sometimes doesn't even come in. He's got permission supposedly to leave during the anthem. And my thought is, if you're offended by the anthem and, you know, One Nation Under God, then perhaps you might be offended by the money that comes along that says, "In God We Trust." I think people ought to rise up. It's time. If he is not comfortable with our country, with our anthem, that says a lot to me. And I'm not a sports fan, but it's about time sports fans rise up. What else can Americans do, Kelly? Tell us more about Act for America. How do they get involved? When they're hearing this program, they're frustrated, they're scared. What do we do?
Well, you know, I applaud Dr. Stephen Kirby for starting an Act for America chapter there in Des Moines so many years ago, and what a legacy he's created in your entire area and literally around the world with his works, his books. And the influence that he has been able to leverage partly as a result of working with us. And we encourage people to consider, you know, in your city, in your town, if you're outside of Des Moines, consider starting an Act for America chapter, whether you just have 2 or 3 friends in your chapter or you have hundreds of people. It doesn't matter. It's up to you and your particular life situation. Anybody can do it, and we would love to work with you on that. If you went to actforamerica.org and check out the chapter section of the website, you can fill in your information, and we'll get back to you with details. But it's amazing what thousands of people can do if they're all swinging at the same direction at the same time. You know, Brigitte Gabriel, she's fond of saying that, you know, when they used to watch TV and bad news would come across, you know, her husband would threaten to take his shoe off and throw it at the TV. Well, instead of throwing your shoe at the TV, let's all do something together that makes a true impact for not only for you, but for your kids and your grandkids. And, you know, I look at this problem, and I just am amazed at the adherence to a literal demon called Allah. That's what I consider this being. I don't think it's just an idol. I think he's literally a demon that appeared to Muhammad, 1,400 years ago. That's my personal opinion. But you look at the level of adherence, and we have to, when somebody like that declares war against you, you have to take them at their word.
You absolutely do. We've mentioned earlier that they don't understand our way of life. When we apologize, it's a sign for weakness. When we compromise, it's a sign for weakness. and some of the tough talk that Donald Trump has been saying. And again, this is not just an endorsement. We're not trying to just build up Donald Trump, but he gets it. Some of the tough talk is what speaks to some of them. We talked about the LGBTQ a little bit, but it's not just that group. This was an assault on all Americans, on our liberties, on our securities, but also women. Islam, Sharia law is very hostile towards women. I don't know if you all saw the article recently where one of the courts in Pakistan had ruled, yes, it's okay to beat your wife. Steve, you said for years that that's in the Quran. You've given the verse, how you can beat your wife. There are other verses that talk about treat them as cattle. And we know in the court of law, it takes two women to one male. And in a sexual assault that maybe happens in the no-go zones in Paris, there is no justice there. You're on your own because they won't testify against another Islam for an infidel.
Well, it's interesting you mention that because just in the last few days in Dubai, I think it was a Danish woman was there on business, and she ends up meeting a Muslim guy at a hotel. They're drinking, and next thing she knows, she wakes up and she'd been raped. So she goes to the authorities there in Dubai and to make a rape report. Well, she ends up getting arrested for having sex outside of marriage. And she ended up having to pay a fine, and I think they ended up releasing her. Now, whatever happened to the suspect in this is another matter, but it's interesting because she didn't have any witnesses. And the Quran says you need 4 witnesses on something like this in that particular incident.
And even if she did, they won't go against a Muslim for a non-Muslim.
Well, it's the believers, and this is something important for people to understand when they hear Muslims talking or reading Islamic literature. The term believer means Muslims, period. It doesn't mean Christian believers.
No.
It doesn't mean Jewish believers. It means Muslims, period. So the Quran talks about believers, Muslims, and disbelievers, are non-Muslims. So that's an important distinction to keep in mind. When you hear Muslims, especially in the United States, talking about we're all believers, this kind of nonsense.
Kelly, we have a minute left. Anything happening in D.C.? What should we ask our congressmen and our senators to be doing? I mean, it's one thing to have a president overstepping his bounds and then not doing enough for our security, but Congress could stop or help much of this harm.
Well, one of the most important bills right now is sponsored by Representative Brian Babin out of Texas. It's a great bill on refugee resettlement, and we're really laser focused in on that. And so if you would call your member of Congress and say you represent or you support Representative Babin's bill on refugee resettlement, that could be a really big, very good timing right now for that one.
And I don't have it in front of me, but I think that phone number for the switchboard that will get you to any U.S. representative or senator is 202-224-3121. I think that is the phone number, 202-224-3121. We tell you to put that in your phone, tape it to your fridge, whatever you need to do to be ready and call them. Gentlemen, we have just a minute left. What would you say to our listeners out there as they're barbecuing for Father's Day? What's the best thing dads can do?
Go for it, Kelly.
Love your family, love your wife, love your kids, cherish every minute because we are living in the greatest experiment in freedom the world has ever known. Do not take it for granted.
Agreed. Set a good example for your family.
You know, so much of this, I think, could be halted and could be corrected if in the home we fixed many of the problems that we deal with today. And we've just talked about the national security right now. But when you have kids who don't understand the Second Amendment rights, this is not a gun control issue. This is nothing more than people who hate us in America. They hate that we are not Muslim. They hate that we are not Islamic. And even then, you have we don't have time now, Steve, but you've got the Shiites and the Shunites and the Sunnis, and they fight amongst themselves. It is just a religion, political, military system based on hate and conquering.
Right. It's not a lot of good neighbors out there.
So, Our founding fathers saw it best with America. What made better Christians made us better citizens. So that's one great thing you could do for your family. Get the Word of God out, read it. Maybe you can join us for this 99 county tour. If you're in a county you haven't heard anything about it, get on that website. The Facebook page is Iowa Bible Reading Marathon. See what you can do to find out. Just all you have to do is read the Word, and we'll have the instructions and directions for you there, and you can find somebody to help you. But as I said earlier in the show, Isaiah 55:11, the Word will not return void. You've been encouraged. Now never be complacent.